is Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, member of the Intelligence Committee, whom I give tremendous thanks for coming in on a holiday weekend. I appreciate that. President Obama is saying in his speech that the administration prefers to capture terrorists rather than to kill them in a strike. When was the last time that we captured a high-value target?
You know, I'm not sure when the last time was, but I think what the President is expressing is when we are able to capture these high-value detainees, we can gather intelligence from them, and that helps us protect the country. That is always to be preferred, but obviously sometimes that's just not possible when you have high-value targets that are in dangerous places, as they most often are, and it would risk American lives to put boots on the ground to try to capture them. So sometimes, oftentimes, it's simply not possible. But when we can, that is the preferred practice so that we can gain intelligence.
The President's new policy guidelines say that lethal force can only be used when a terrorist poses a, quote, continuing imminent threat to U.S. citizens. What does the government define an imminent threat to be? Is that clear yet?
Well, this is always going to be the challenge, and I don't know that you can define that with precision. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's something the Commander-in-Chief has to decide. Is this threat imminent enough? And I think the key thing in terms of the redefining of how we're using drones is that now it's no longer going to be something that it affects a U.S. interest. It has to affect the safety of a U.S. person, of a U.S. citizen. So that's a very significant change. It means we won't be using them to protect allies or protect the Pakistani government from its own people, the Pakistani Taliban. So that's a very sizable shift. And I think what the President is saying in the speech is the threat we face from al-Qaeda hasn't gone away, and some are overstating what the President's remarks mean, but rather it's changed. And we see that in the attack in Boston. We see that in the attack this week in London. Obviously, drones are very limited value when you're talking about homegrown, self-radicalized terrorism, as it looks like we had both in Boston and in London. But plainly, this challenge and the threat isn't over. But the core of al-Qaeda has been seriously degraded, and now we have to deal more with the self-radicalization and these al-Qaeda franchises.
Yeah. There are two sides to every coin, that is. And what if another country were to carry out drone strikes if they abided by the same standards laid out in the President's speech? What if that were to happen here on U.S. soil? I mean, is that up for discussion? Do people consider that there on Capitol Hill when talking about this?
Well, I think this is really part of what's driving the President's remarks and thoughts on this, which is we are not going to be the only country that develops a drone technology capable of doing this. There are others that are not that far behind. And so we want to make sure that our program is on a solid legal footing and hold others to the same standard. I don't think there's a lot of risk that people will use drones to kill people in the United States, foreign countries that is. But there is certainly a chance that you could see China or Russia using a drone technology, maybe in a place like Chechnya, or maybe in a place against China using it against Uyghurs or other people it considers to be a threat. And I think what the President is thinking about in terms of his legacy is not only how people the United States, but what precedent we're setting for the rest of the world.
A congressional delegation is headed to Russia this week. They're going to investigate the Boston bombing suspects. What are they hoping to find?
Well, I think they're hoping to encourage the Russians to be more cooperative in the investigation, to reveal more information about why they had certain people under surveillance, what they can tell us about these brothers, what they can tell us about family members or other people they may have been in contact, the elder brother may have been in contact with. But, you know, I think we have to be realistic about what we're going to accomplish both through this congressional delegation and other high-level administration-to-administration meetings. The Russians have very different interests than we do. And yes, there is an overlapping concern about terrorism. But as we see in Syria, for example, the Russians are a completely different place than us. They don't have much trust in us. We don't have a lot of trust in them. And on many foreign policy issues, we're at great odds with them. So I think we need to be mindful of the limitations of the cooperation we're likely to get.
All right, Representative Adam Schiff from the Intelligence Committee, thank you very much for your time, and a happy Memorial Day to you and your family.
To you, too.
Thanks. Mark Sanford.